friends, welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies you love, and we love break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my holly jolly, then come murder you, friend and magical co-host,
Alex Dandino.
Oh, man, guys. We're closing in on the end of the year. We had a great list of stocking stuffers this year. We appreciate your guys' submissions. So you can find I Saw the Devil, Annihilation, Hell or High Water, Jaws, The Revenge. And then, for an added treat, we covered Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. Since everyone wants to talk about it, we did too. But now we're giving you a special Christmas treat. This Christmas Day delight, how could we not? Before we get into the movie, if you like us, and we hope you do, please leave us a rating and review wherever you find this podcast, especially Apple Podcast app. You can also find us talking all things comics and pop culture over on the Longbox Sessions podcast, hosted by Alex over there. You can find us on YouTube at The Nerd Alchemist. That's Alchemist plural with an S at the end. And as always, guys, just share this on your social media, man. The more we can get people into the tent, that's our goal. All right, without further ado, let's open up your Christmas present from us to you with the Christmas classic, maybe arguably the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Deadly Games, A.K.A. Dial Code Santa.
A.K.A. Game Over, A.K.A. Hide and Freak.
Hide and Freak.
Four titles.
There are certain scenes in this movie that had things gone a little different, Hide and Freak would have applied. Alex, had you ever seen this Christmas gem before this year?
Didn't even know it existed.
All right. Walk me through your initial take on what I would say is the true king that fucking B film Home Alone tried to usurp the throne from.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, my biggest takeaway from Code Santa Claus was, well, at least this parent, I know what they do for a living, because I've always assumed Mr. McAllister was a drug dealer, and that was why he was able to afford such nice vacations.
That's how he can make that much money to afford all that shit, but also can't work an alarm clock.
Yeah, apparently doesn't know how an alarm clock works. Yeah, the movie was, it's interesting because this movie was made in, 1990? 98? Something like that? It has 1989. It has the look of a movie from the 80s. I think I was expecting it to look more like it was, because Home Alone in 1990 looks like Home Alone, looks like a movie made in the 90s. This still has that weird frosted tint on the lens for a lot of stuff. But overall, pretty interesting movie. Kind of weird. Yeah, it's obviously Home Alone, and those guys totally ripped off this movie 1,000%.
You think there's a world in which John Hughes watched this movie and was just like, oh, fuck, I gots to steal?
I think there's a world in which John Hughes heard of this movie and then did not he's like, oh, home invasion, kid, burglar. Right. I think can you imagine John Hughes of all people pitching, because this movie is markedly different from the version we get in the States, which is Home Alone.
Right.
Can you imagine John Hughes being like, yeah, this fucking vagrant who slaps kids, just starts murdering people and then goes after this small child in his house. I can only imagine him getting laughed out of the room in certain respects, in certain parts of this business. That's John Hughes makes the most John Hughesy version of this movie with Home Alone.
Right.
Because, this is to me, this is, I thought it was fucking terrifying in a lot of respects.
This is the thing. This movie, and I know people are going to come at me about this. I'm not here to ruffle your Christmas feathers, man. But I'm telling you for a fact, this movie is better on every single level than Home Alone. It's just an infinitely better and more interesting version of that story. And when you compare our Santa Claus versus Marv and whoever the fuck, Joe Pesci, right? Yeah. Marv and Harry, there's no comparison.
The Sticky Bandits.
We actually have moments of true human development with our Santa. We actually understand why he's doing this other than, I just need money. This is a true philosophical and emotional crisis. I mean, it's actually this is the thing. Part of what makes this movie infinitely better is that it is just so intrinsically French, right? The house is better.
Yeah,
the house is the playground setting for this movie in Deadly Games is infinitely better. The family relationships are infinitely better. The
I actually
for being
feel
home
like
alone is infinitely better.
I do feel like the kid Tomas in this movie, his parents are actually worried about him, or his mother Julie is actually worried about him.
Yeah.
Like again, Home Alone. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is probably gonna like piss some people off. I don't like Home Alone a lot.
What the fuck?
And it was not a movie that was like my parents don't like Home Alone, and as I've gotten older, like when I was a kid, I thought it was cool because it's just fun to watch. Like grown ups get fucking punked by a kid. As I've gotten older, though, like I don't like any of the characters in that movie. Like every single person, including Kevin, I think are terrible people.
Well, this is the weird thing. Once you're old enough to actually have kids and responsibilities, the movie becomes even worse. Because there is no justifiable universe where it's you made it all the way out of your house and rushed and got to the airport and you just forgot a child. Although they do the cardinal sin, which I say, once you're past like 3 kids, you don't love them as much. It is impossible because you don't have enough
and that's
attention.
like a big problem for me is like I hated it in the first one. I'm like, well, that sucks. He's home alone and like nobody's
so
like.
You know what? We can't do a whole Home Alone pod. This is for Deadly
I know.
Games.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're getting up, but like that. But that's why But getting back to Deadly Games, can we call it Deadly Games?
We'll call it Deadly Games.
I don't want to say.
I do like Dial Code Santa though. What a great title.
Interesting title. Yeah, but like what I liked about Deadly Games is everyone in the family seemingly gets along and likes each other and like looks out for one another. And like Tomas could be this like bitchy, bratty little kid, and instead he's just like a rambunctious kid who loves his family, is very respectful of his elders, so on and so forth. Like
he's just like a genius.
He's a likable he's a likable child character, which is like rather than his stupid little friend Pilou, who I wanted to fucking murder from the get-go. Like that was like one of my favorite things is he was like, by the way, whatever this Minitel thing is, I don't remember that. Like that might be a French thing. Minitel though, where you can just get on and like start communicating with people. Like it's basically like the original like
it's the original chat roulette.
It's
where
the
French
original
guys
chat
are just
roulette.
like, how do I put my dick in this thing? Like that is pedophile 101. Like that could not exist anymore.
Minitel is like the original chat roulette where like again like it starts out seemingly like a weird little family thing, and then it starts with the Minitel stuff where like
wait, before we even get there, this is what is so much better about this movie than Home Alone. Besides just the style and the world, the kind of surrealist, right, that I love. It's kind of got like this delicatessen, Amelie kind of surreal French nature to it. But just admit, the opening scene starts with a title card, which I love. All children believe in magic until it's not rewarded anymore to believe in magic. And then they show us a perfect one-scene visual of why this matters and what happens. In the journey of Santa in this movie is the separating factor more than any other, right? We see this guy, he walks into a street, and we're just in the middle of, like, kids having a fun snowball fight, right? A magical winter. Here comes just a normal guy smiling as he sees this exuberant childhood celebration. He picks up one snowball, and everyone scatters, like he's the turd in the punch bowl. And you see it hurt him, right? And he starts going through his day. And then he works as a Santa. And we see him. It means so much to him that he's giving that magic to other kids.
Right.
And then it all breaks.
And then that right. Well, that little kid's kind of a shit.
Yep.
Not great.
Right.
But then, he also makes the cardinal sin of slapping the kid in front of
Yeah, we also
Julia.
see the Minitel, right, where he's like texting a child, not strong, but maybe he's still okay. When the child says, and I believe the exact quote is, she's kind of looking at him, right? And he's already helped some other kids. It's kind of this beautiful, snowy, slow-mo thing. And she just is like, I don't like your face. You don't look like Santa, and pulls his beard down. And there's this amazing musical cue where it's just like, oh, now we're going to go Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. And
yeah, it's like this terrifying
out
stinger.
Of this kid.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not a good look for a Santa. But to be fair, I had a bad experience with my mall Santa this year. We fucking took our kids to get Santa pictures. And Santa was just like the, mopiest bitch Santa I've ever seen. And so we're trying to get the kids to smile. Santa can barely be bothered. So we're waiting. I'm waiting on my wife to close the deal and get the printed out photos. We're just kind of sitting there, and he's like, so you moved from L.A., huh? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, sucks for you. And I was like, what do you mean, Santa? And he's like, L.A. sucks. Only dumb liberals live there. Something along those lines. I was like, oh, you're that guy. Like, you're injecting even fucking politics into this, my kids getting their Santa pictures. And then I try to change the subject, right? I'm like, hey, kids, did you ask Mall Santa what he wants for Christmas? And I fucking shit you not. I know I live in Indiana, so this is going to sound like a joke. So my son Hunter goes, Santa, what did you ask for? And he goes, a vote for Donald Trump.
There it is.
And I was just like, all right, kids, let's go to Starbucks. Santa, coal, bitch. Coal for you. I was like, Jesus Christ. You're the worst small Santa. So, I mean, this guy's not out of the realm of believable Santa. But that's what I mean. The acting is fantastic because his face, as you see, this is the moment when the magic is no longer incentivized. And you see him break. And this beautiful linking, this is the other thing it does. It specifically links this Santa to Tomas, right? Because Tomas's mom is there, red power suiting, dominating the corporate world because the father is not in the picture. So she's extra careful and protective of providing and being powerful. That she's not with her kid on Christmas Eve so that she can give Christmas joy to other kids. It's this kind of beautiful moment of a man who's lost his belief in magic and Christmas who decides he's going to murder. And this lady who's giving all of this Christmas joy to everyone except for the people that matter. It's kind of these two original sins colliding in this really cool way.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, it's appreciative that there's a reason for a killer in this one. Like, he has, like, motivation, and it's not just, he's, like, the dregs of society. He sort of got, like, shit on, and also, like, I think the magic snap is probably the best part about it. Like, you realize, like, this is a guy who's just trying to bring joy into children's lives, and some kid is too fucking smug to just enjoy the ride. Yeah. Again, it's like, it goes back to my least favorite character, Pilou, who just constantly shits on Tomas the entire movie. But, like, that's... Yeah, like, honestly, like, there's a scene later in the movie where I was like, oh, fuck, is Pilou finally going to get it? Like, that's what I was hoping for.
Pedal, you little piece of shit, pedal! But even just the decision, right? So he's supposed to go to personnel to get fired. Just the decision to have him taking this exorbitant haul of toys to Tomas, and that's how they're going to meet. Again, it's this extra cutting, kind of critique of Christmas as a whole. Is the mom's like, because the mom has this really weird power play, right? Where my son doesn't believe in Santa anymore, so we got to kick up the gifts tenfold. Yeah. Right? We're going to buy him into believing in Santa. Also, I'm just going to tell him that his friend's a little piece of shit, and that's why Santa won't visit him. So
yeah, totally.
But you know what the weirdest part of this is? I didn't realize it till the end. This whole movie might not have happened this way if the mom just didn't lie to him about Santa. It's kind of the most totally. It's the most French ending of a movie is having the child just sit in the nihilism of the Santa mythology, right? Because if the mom doesn't lie to him and he doesn't reach out, maybe he's not sitting there unprepared and this and that. I mean, you could say that the mom firing him is what starts it, but it almost is the lie, right, that sets Tomas up for this battle. It's very strange, man. What did you think of? What did you make of Tomas, though, man? Our introduction to him might be the best character intro we've ever done on this show.
I was actually, when I was watching, I'm like, did I turn on Son of Rambo? Because I was like, am I watching the wrong? Like, originally, it's like, I think I might be watching the wrong movie. And then, like, obviously I was. But, I mean, it was a great character intro, though. Like, again, it's one of those things where I actually no, like that wasn't what I was thinking. My initial thought was like, oh fuck, am I watching this in the middle of the movie by accident?
Right.
And like that was what I was thinking at the beginning of the movie. Is like, fuck, like I gotta rewind. And I'm like, oh man, this whole thing's it's jacked up. Like I can't because when I initially turned it's on Shudder. When I initially turned it on Shudder, I was like, oh man, I think they must have fucked up the file or something like that. I'm having trouble watching it. But like then we got deeper in. I was like, oh my god, he's chasing the dog. Like wow. I know everything I need to know about this kid within the first 3 minutes of this movie. It was great, man.
Well, it's
it was
such
wonderful.
a strange intro, too, because it starts as him, you think, having a dream, like the Snoopy dream, right, with the Red Baron, where him and his dog are sleeping in, like, a fighter plane, and they wake up in just the room itself. You're like, what the fuck is this room? Where does this exist? Right? Like, he's in a fucking plane. He gets out, this beautiful mullet, just starts repping sets. And they do the weirdest, like, panning down his tiny, muscleless arm, but he's sweaty.
Yeah.
Gets his war paint on, traps his dog in a fucking net to this badass, like, Rocky montage music. And it's this strange, what the
fake
fuck
Rocky
is
montage
happening?
music, by the way. I loved that.
Yeah, you really don't know, but when they cut away, we see this giant, weird, like, Tim Burton castle that they live in. And it just sets such a fun tone for the movie that you immediately know this is going to be something wild, right? Santa smacking a kid aside, this is like the fun intro to the movie.
Yeah, I actually think my favorite part is when he's like pretending to scale the wall on the outside. Right. And he almost falls, and then it pans out, and you realize, oh, he's just like pretending like, oh, wow, this kid has like a crazy imagination. But again, it's all you need to know about him. He's like, very imaginative, very fun-loving, believes in Santa. Those are all the things you need to know about Tomas to get you into the movie.
Right. And I love that he has the relationship with the dog and Grandpa because it grounds him, right? Again, the anti-Home Alone, which is, why do I care about all these people who hate each other? And at the end, I'm supposed to be like, no, you guys are all good because you're happy to be back in your mansion. Wrong.
Right.
Like, him and his grandpa in this movie are probably the best part, right? He brings his grandpa down to breakfast with the line, I found this old half-blind diabetic prisoner. Which seems like a shitbag thing to say, but they have that kind of bond, right? Like, him and his grandpa play D&D. They fix the car together. His grandpa loves him. And he saves his grandpa about 4 times in the movie. It adds an awful lot to this character to me.
Right.
Here's a weird thing I noticed I wanted to get your take on. There are at least 4 times, I think, in this movie where the movie should have ended, right? So when Santa breaks into the house, first off, just they break like the cardinal rule. Again, very French nihilism here. Just seeing Santa gut the dog. Like, he actually watches his dog get murdered. By Santa. And of course, again, very French, let them eat cake. He kills them with the cake server. Right? That's Santa's weapon of choice against rich French people.
Yeah, the cake server thing was very, very French.
Bravo! But so we get this. This is the crazy scene, though, right? He tries to break out. He's like, Grandpa, we need help, blah, blah, blah. He goes out, and before he traps Santa in the net and the kind of game is begun, he fucking closes these crazy metal shutters because he has the whole house wired to his armband, right, with cameras and technology. Yeah. He does the Rorschach. And he's like, Santa, you're fucking trapped in here with me. That's insane.
Yeah, I love that.
Can you imagine? Yeah, what does that tell you about this kid? That he stayed up to see Santa, but Santa murdered his dog. And he's like, now you can't leave.
Right. Like, that was like probably... Again, it's just such a great, like, it tells you like, it's very small moments. Like, you don't really need a lot to know what this kid's all about. And, like, that's another great. It was like, I was trying to be cool, and you came in and started acting like a dick. You killed my dog. Very not cool. Dude, and now we're going to fight.
The montage of him burying his dog while having flashbacks of his dog being a good boy. Oh, my God. Good Lord. That fucking killed me and made me laugh. It was like the total emotional upheaval. And I loved when he gave him the sword with the, like, plastic Bowie knife tombstone. That is an all-time great scene in a movie. Come on. But it's weird because this is another thing you notice. The actors in this are really good, too. Like, Evil Santa, I don't know if he speaks until almost the very end of the movie.
No, he says that thing at the end.
Performance, right?
Yeah.
Thomas, really fucking good, right? Their trap it's so fun to, and I do think the undervalued part of this is the set pieces of this house are insane. It's almost like a backup Suspiria school level of set design, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like the labyrinth itself is so vast.
Yeah,
it's a castle, which is cool.
Yeah, and they have like the maze where he's trying to get up to the phone in the attic. They have the Island of Lost Toys room where they just hide. So it's just really like a fun. It's just that extra setting I don't think you appreciate enough until the movie's over. Like, wow, that's just better than, most movies like this I watch, because what a weird fucking setting. But what I like, too, because, again, he could have escaped then. He could have escaped when he goes to chase his chunky friend on the bike. Right. And he chooses not to. He kind of has this, I'll help my grandpa, but then it's personal. What happens by the end of the movie, Santa says the same thing. He says, now it's your turn to count, and I'll hide. And come find me and don't cheat. What do you make of Santa in that moment? Instead of just killing him, which he seemingly came to do, this kind of throws the whole Santa story in a bit of a topsy-turvy moment. What did you make of that from Santa?
I honestly figured it was just like the vagrant Santa was literally like, he's just not correct. So he's not like his reality. I just thought he was just a crazy person. It's like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. Like,
yeah,
I'm not really sure. I didn't really know how to interpret it.
It came back to that magic idea, right? And I think when he meets Thomas, who is kind of this, who the fuck is this kid, right? And he's in this fucking insane house. For a person who's already had a mental break, that has to be almost impossible to process what's happening, right? So it feels almost like he's entered some kind of Christmas dream, like a Christmas fantasy of his, right? To go around and be Santa and actually have the authority to demand attention. And I think that was the other thing, too, is he demands that child's attention, which is all he wants to do in every scene we see him before he smacks Moira, whatever her name is. It's just him trying to attract the attention of kids and, share that magic with them. And I think instead of being mad that he's been locked in a room and dropped in a net and fucking bashed in the head or whatever, right? I think he likes it. You know what I mean? He's in this shared Christmas delusion with the kid.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, it's a shared. I think that's exactly the way to interpret it. Like, my way is the very superficial. Like, oh, he's a crazy person, so that's what's happening. Like, I think the way you're supposed to view it is that this guy thinks he's Santa. So he believes he's in this Santa Claus experience with Thomas. So when you have when you see it from his perspective, it feels a little more infantile and childish, and like actually even scarier, because in that case there are almost no consequences for him when you think about it.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from Thomas' perspective, it's even terrifying.
Yeah, well, when Thomas escapes and he goes and gets the insulin from the caretaker's house, who Santa's already dispatched. So we know Santa will straight up murder. But the fact that he won't with Thomas, I think it's... He's trying to still find... Because there's that moment where Thomas gets in the car and he calls an ambulance and he's like, "You cheated!" And they crash. Like, he's just... Again, he could have jumped him and killed him for cheating, but he's just mad that the game is done. Right. And the next thing they do is really... brilliant on that front too, where Thomas is kind of running and he falls in the mud, and by the time the Santa catches him, he almost has none of his white spray on hair and beard anymore. Which that was a really important scene, was him doing that in the mirror, because now you can't pull the beard off, right? This was his break into his killer persona. There's that moment where Thomas is just wailing and he says, "Why?" Right? And Santa kind of moves towards him almost as if, "Hey, I'm back to reality, and I just want to like comfort you and make this okay." And of course, Thomas shoots him. But it's this weird character breakdown for him.
Thomas shoots him? I thought the pappy shot him.
He shoots him in the mud puddle, and then he still comes back. Cool, and the grandpa is like, "Well, 50-50 odds I'll kill Santa or my grandson. Got to take the shot." I just got my insulin 5 seconds ago.
Right.
But yeah, the Santa arc in this is way more fascinating to me than it has any right to be.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, again, for a character who literally says a sum total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, I don't know, 10 words really throughout the movie, short of, like, I guess the opening. But
even
really,
then,
like,
he doesn't really talk. He tries to
yeah,
play
I mean,
the
short
snowball,
of that,
he types,
again,
he
he's a
smacks
great
kid.
he's a great Michael Myers type, which is just like quiet, lurking, creepy, uncomfortable. Like, that's what's great. But in this jovial manner of Santa Claus, it makes it so much worse and so much more terrifying. But at the same time, like, you're rooting for the kid. It's weird. Like, I also, again, because I was just like, oh, he's like a crazy person, he can't help himself. I was just like, really, I felt bad for the homeless guy. I felt bad for Santa Claus.
Well, this is the moment too, right? When Thomas is holding the gun, he's kind of shaking, and the guy we've seen, the little kid playing Rambo in war games, like pumping war sounds through his house.
Yeah.
This is the first time we see with Thomas, he's like, oh, this shit's not a game.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this extra, and that's him having to confront the reality of this, is that extra level too that is really fucking intense, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's such an interesting, like, movie about the breaking of a dream, I guess, or maybe like the willingness to like,
well, this is the weird, like, what is the movie saying, right? Kid. Like, is this just them running through? Because essentially the movie is a child literally shooting his Santa Claus fantasy to death.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end, Thomas just sitting there as his mom tries to comfort him. It's like, well, this is too late. And he's like,
right, that's what it is.
It was my fault, Mama, because I wanted to see
Santa.
And you're like,
yeah,
no,
like,
this is not your fault.
But that's like, I mean, like, that's sort of the crazy thing is, like, is the movie trying to say, like, to me, I was like, wait, is the movie trying to tell our kids there's no Santa Claus way early on?
Get that shit out of the way. If you see that guy, hide, right? Hide your dog, hide your grandpa. That's what I mean, that's part of it, but then it's also, because there is the weird, the other part of it to me is watching how this fucking lie of Christmas in this film kind of becomes a breaking point for people that are the saddest.
Right.
Because that all around you see, in the whole Christmas everything, right? That's why we put up these decorations and lights and have the little reindeer and the snowman. It's supposed to remind us of, this is a more magical time of year. Well, if you're this guy and you're lonely and on the verge of breaking and all you want to do is participate in that, and everyone just tells you to fuck off, and a kid's like, I'm going to take your one bit of dignity away, and he fucking breaks down, and the only person he attacks, right, or the person he attacks, I should say, not the only, is a mom who's being a bad mom, right, putting other kids' Christmas joy in front of, kind of the commercialism, right? I want them to know Santa's a patron of our store. In front of her own kid, and so she actually, by accident, because of her distance from her family, sends a murder Santa with a van full of toys that this kid doesn't need, because he actually has a room of lost toys from generations of this family. You know what I mean? So the mom is almost equally complicit in what happens in this, weirdly.
I mean, I feel like more to that point, too, it's even more terrifying when you realize, like, this Santa is trying to keep the Santa Claus, like, the fun of Santa and the fun of Christmas alive. And he goes to murder people at the house where, like, it's, like, literally the one kid in the movie who still believes in Santa Claus.
Right. The one good kid, yeah.
The one good kid is the one he's, like, trying to fucking kill the whole time. And that's, like, the, like, bizarre and tragic irony of this whole movie is you're like, oh man, like Santa, like this version of Santa who's trying to just like keep things alive is literally trying to kill the one person who still believes in him. Like, it's brutal, man. Like, the death of dreams is really what this movie should be called. Like, it's so sad, man.
It's so French.
Like,
it's such a French ending of this movie, right?
It's a very French movie.
Because
And the kid blames himself.
Well, it's so strange because it's the delusional man trying to act like a child, and then the delusional, joyous child dying to become the man that he just killed. You know, it's
by the way,
it's fucking
like he totally becomes this man again. Like this is the most French thing, and this is also like the most adult thing too. Is like you know, we have a kid now, and like we're trying to like put together a fun Christmas and everything like that. My folks come in town, all that stuff. But like every time something goes wrong, I'm just like, it's my fault. I didn't do it right. Like, and this kid early on learns the valuable lesson that all us adults learn. And we're like, it's my fault. I wanted it too much. Like that's all it is, man. Oh my god, it's so depressing.
Well, there
it's
is
so
a small
French.
part where like, hey, Thomas, don't drop the giant metal gates. Just run the fuck away. You already stowed Grandpa in the knight's armor. A scene, by the way, I'm so mad I didn't get a watch. And then at the end when he just drops fucking Santa or drops his grandpa in the armor, I was like, well, that's hip replacement for sure.
Yeah.
But
if not more.
And that's the thing too. There's so many weird moments of how this battle plays out. So when he makes the declaration, he comes because they trap Santa in the sauna. You're like, all right, pretty good play. It keeps kind of going. Santa fucking murders a cop, tries to murder the friend, murders the caretakers. So there's a lot going on. And then the movie kind of pauses where Thomas has the like grief funeral for the dog. And he's reborn in the fire of combat. And he goes, you don't know where I am because this is my house. My house. This is my house. And you are going to be sad you ever came here, Santa.
Right.
Even though he is the one who invited him, right? He wanted Santa here. Now you're going to fucking pay. Santa. And his play is, right, he's kind of seemingly setting up booby traps and trackers. But then he sends the little bomb on a train. Right? So, Thomas, it's like, light the fucking bomb and chuck it at the last second, blow Santa up. But he puts it on the train because he wants to let Santa know 'tis Christmas that killed you. You know what I mean? It's a little psychotic. Like, this genius kid has been broken to the point he's not going to have a good life anymore.
Oh, yeah, no, this kid's life is ruined permanently. Like, he doesn't... Like, him not believing in Santa Claus might be the least big problem he has going forward. For sure.
He doesn't believe in the human condition anymore. He's out. He has shuffled that off and now will become a murder machine.
This is a guy who becomes like, not only that, but like also like for 30 years, like a shut-in, like will not let anyone in his house. Like,
which was already seemingly his life, except for that little ginger kid.
Yeah. Pilou.
Idiot. Yeah. When he put that bomb in the train, I was like, oh, this kid's like going down a bad way.
Yeah, it's over. Like, there's no...
Because you could look at it as, oh, I will kill you from a distance. No, because you can throw it.
The true meaning of this movie is about the death of dreams, especially about the death of holiday dreams. That's, like, the saddest part about the entire movie is you're just like, wow, everything from the beginning of this movie on has been so downhill and terrible. Like, nothing good happens. Like... The groundskeeper, the chef, like all those fuckers get murdered. The dog, like once the dog was murdered, you're like, all right, this is pretty much it. Like there's nothing good's going to happen at the end of this.
You know who makes it out just fine though? All the rich white people. Classic. Another indictment of society.
Another indictment of the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, of course they'll be fine. It's like, oh, you guys just have your castle now. You're good. And then that Thomas grows up and becomes the creeps from the burbs. That's how this movie is.
Wow, good call. That's a good point. I want to point something out. I found out through some research, this movie's first release, like first public viewing, was March 18th, 1989 at the Lowen Film Festival of Youth and Children's Films.
Perfect.
First screening of this movie with a murder Santa Claus.
Time to grow
was
up,
at a
you
fucking
assholes.
children's film festival. Time to grow up, you little shits.
Hey man, here's what I love about this movie, right? One, it's easily better than Home Alone on every storytelling spectrum. And it's not close.
Absolutely.
It's not close.
100%.
Real emotions, real consequences, better setup, right? I
Totally.
love our Santa's emotional arc, man. I think it is fantastic. Thomas is a brilliant character. His bond with his grandpa was endearing. I like the
True.
mom actually driving back, realizing I have fucked up. I have fucked up bad, and that my kid might die from that. I liked her getting detoured on the road and having her friend pick her up. I liked her having to sit and stew in the fact that she might have sent Santa there to murder him. I think this is a wildly fun film. I think the set is the underrated MVP of the movie. What a just beautiful set design. Like, these are so much fun to go room to room and have this battle. And it gives it this extra kind of fairy tale quality, right? It's got a Grimm's Fable element to it, which I like. It's kind of like a more visually fun Krampus movie. And I just thought it was fucking fun and interesting, and it has real fucking stakes and drama. Yeah, heavier than some Christmas fare. But it's good, man. You could show that to a film festival full of kids and be like, hey, don't you go forgetting the meaning of Christmas. Don't do it. Don't you do it.
I mean, I definitely will never show my child this movie, so I never have to be asked the question, is Santa Claus real?
My kid's already seen half of this movie.
If I get asked that question, I'm sure it'll be terrifying.
Don't worry. I will show your kid all the movies he should be watching. I know you'll probably just show him Cats 25 times in a row.
Wow. That is an indictment, and I will not take that lightly. Hot take.
That is a French-cutting indictment from Griff. No. All right, guys. That's it for Deadly Games, A.K.A. Dial Code Santa, A.K.A. What is it? Hide and Freak?
Game Over, A.K.A. Hide and Freak.
Whatever you call it, I just hope you guys had a good time with it, man. I call it a fucking phenomenal Christmas movie. Easily one of the best. Someday, like some December, years down the road, we'll do our definitive power ranking of Christmas movies. This will be high on my list, man.
This will definitely be up there.
Man. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. You can find it on Shudder, the best app for your money. You guys should all have that. Thanks for spending time with us again, man. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of you. If you want to give us a gift, leave us a rating and review wherever you find us, especially on the Apple Podcast app. Subscribe to the Film Alchemist.
Please.
Subscribe to the Long Box Sessions, our other show about comics and pop culture. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nerd Alchemist. That's plural with an S at the end. And as always, guys, just tell some of your other friends, man. Give the gift of us to your friends. That would mean the world to us. It's a double gift, man. You guys don't want to kill our fucking Christmas spirit like a homeless old vagrant with white spray paint, do you? Do ya? For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dan.
Happy holidays, people. Peace.